Well, according to a recent report, at the very least, they realize there's a problem with 2014 playoff expansion.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all, especially my everydayers, for helping make that the case. Should we actually look at Boise State as the default playoff favorite again? Christian Rauh of Locked On Pac-12 is here to discuss that. We will get into it later on today's show, and an underrated team on the recruiting trail to keep an eye on. That's on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Christian, recent report from Ross Dellinger indicates they being the higher-ups, powers that be, we don't know a lot of the names or faces of people that are always having these conversations and such, but the idea of expanding the playoff is still on the table. It seemed like it had taken a bit of a backdrop from a news standpoint in the last couple of weeks with the Brendan Sorsby stuff and the Protect College Sports Act that may or may not actually come to pass. But Dellinger indicated in his report that yeah, they're trying to deal with a crowded December. Oh, really? Oh, whoa. Who could have possibly foreseen that is a hurdle you would run into, that December might get a little bit crowded? Christian, shock and awe that this is something that has to be dealt with here.
Yeah, it's not surprising. And when you look at how, like, right now, the schedule for the upcoming college football playoffs is set up right now, there's like a week and a half between each week, right? It's confusing.
So bad.
They're not figuring it out in the right way, and they need to get their logistics figured out, especially if they move to 24 teams, because it could be an absolute nightmare. We could be talking about playing the national championship on Valentine's Day if they don't figure this one out.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. We're already at January 25th. I mean, how far away is February? Let's just put it the same week of the Super Bowl. Let's drown out the national championship in college football completely. Let's just go all out.
Can you imagine the bender that Sunday, Monday would be, though? Can we just say that out loud?
Okay, yeah, that'd be a good time. You watch the Super Bowl, you go, oh man, football's a national championship tomorrow. Yeah, that'd be no, that's not reasonable. And look, I think the best solution here, Christian, and I want your take on what you think this would mean for the Pac-12 and the group of six writ large. Sure. The conference championship games, they've just got to go. It's such. If you're actually going to put this many teams in the field, first of all, you don't need conference championship games to differentiate between who's deserving of making the playoff and who is not, or who's really deserving of having a higher seed, a home field advantage. But like you don't need that extra data point. You have enough, and it's most often been, like last year, BYU lost their conference championship game, got punished. They would have been in a 2014 playoff. Alabama lost their championship game, didn't get punished, and they would have been in a 2014 playoff either way. I just think that if you're going to try and condense this down, and it seems like coaches actually want that, and I think fans do want that as well, and I think it'd be good for players. I think it'd be good for everybody, quite frankly. I think you have to just get rid of them altogether.
Yeah, as much as as the fan in me, like the traditional side of the fandom, I know that's definitely adapted, wants those conference championship games just to kind of have that fighting right. I think it is time to move on from it. We're starting to see it not really feel like it means anything in other sports. Like if you remember, like the baseball conference championships mean nothing before regionals. College basketball conference championships mean nothing before the NCAA tournament. I think we're at that point for college football as well. And you're right, you don't need that data point anymore, especially when you're looking at the G6. I mean, especially when you're thinking about the Pac-12, you play every team inside the conference. You have the markers that you need to determine who wins that conference. And I think you can say the same for a majority of the group of six as well. So I think you can get rid of it. I think you can move on from it. And I think you can still find yourself with determining who makes the most sense to be added to either the 12 or the 24 team playoff. It seems so, still sounds so weird saying 24. I don't want to say it.
I know. I don't want to say it either. I'm just accepting fate here.
Inevitable.
In that I am but a commentator in this space, and I can try and sway public opinion as much as I want. I'm not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
At least I don't think so. But with what you mentioned about the NCAA tournament, I think the Power Four conference tournament championships have been rendered mostly moot. I think NC State, when they went to the Final Four as an 11 seed, I don't think they were into the big dance, and they ran through the ACC and all that sort of stuff. And that's good and fine. I don't think that is going away. But for the most part, even in basketball, where upsets are a lot more common than they are in football. And by the way, everybody gets into the tournament. Everybody doesn't get into the conference championship game. And so I don't know that I can foresee. Whoops, I don't know why I hit that. But hey, we love our sponsor at Odoo, so I just was subconsciously trying to give them some love. I don't think that I can come up with a scenario. I guess maybe the ACC last year, where a team is truly going to win a conference championship game and be in, or lose it and be out. And Duke was such an anomaly last year. But heck, if Duke was 8-5 and the ACC champ, I think the committee would have just put him in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I wouldn't even have want them to have that opportunity. So I almost think it'd be better without it, because 7-5 Duke shouldn't be in the playoff.
Yes, 100%. And I think when you go back to it, look at from a G6 standpoint, then if you wouldn't have to worry about that ACC type of fight that in this case helped James Madison get in. So no, I'm for you. I think this is the step in the right direction. If you have a busy December, the first step is to give the Army Navy its own time, but not its own day, just its own window, which already seems to be in the right direction. You have to at least protect it for a window. That I stand on that ground.
100%.
Yeah, you have to. You have to give that. You don't need a full day, but then you also get rid of conference championship games. That puts you in a great direction.
That's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks you just got back.
And then you have to make sure that you figure it out. Maybe you don't play on New Year's Eve anymore to make sure that you can play week in and week out. Because right now what's going on with this college football playoff schedule, where you play 1 week and then you're off for almost 2 weeks before you play the next round, just cannot happen.
No, it can't. I don't think anyone is going to be okay with it. Not that coaches are okay with how things go right now with all of this, but I think that's just got to be the inevitable outcome there. And look, if that pushes us closer towards a New Year's Day national championship, I don't know if you can get there. It would be awesome. But if, again, January 8th or 9th, fine. That's just so significantly better than 25th. Like we cannot do this. We absolutely positively cannot. And
if it's going to say January, it has to be a single digit.
Yes, absolutely. You and I are in agreement there. Are we in agreement about who the G6 representative is going to be in the college football playoff this year? Is it Boise State or bust? That is coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos can show up really fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location, which are all things that are, is very important. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. So if I were going to hire somebody to help me run this particular program here, you know where I'd post the job? On Indeed. If I started my own business, whatever that may be, maybe it's a restaurant, I wanted to hire a manager, you know where I'm posting that job? On Indeed. If I want to hire chefs, you know where I'm posting that job? On Indeed. Like if I were going to run the Bear, where would I post jobs? I mean, sure, I might hire, a couple people that I know here or there. Maybe I'd even hire Christian for a particular role, but I'd post the job on Indeed because there's nowhere else to go. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you for making this show your first listen every day. If you tune into every episode and want to level up, check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. For $5 a month or $50 for the year, get access to ad-free audio on podcasts, access to our members-only Discord chat where myself and other Locked On hosts like Christian hang out all the time, and other perks as well. Click the link in the description of this episode and become a Locked On Everydayer Club member today. Okay, Christian, let's examine the playoff picture going into this year. And you, as the host of Locked On Pac-12, now run a show that directly covers Boise State, and a conference, by the way, that officially launches July 1st, as in sometime next week. How exciting is that indeed? But something I noticed, our friends over at FanDuel have odds on, everything, of course, and they're not just guessing over there. Doesn't mean they're right all of the time with how they determine these things. Clemson was a minus odds favorite to win the ACC last year. Whoopsie daisies. That didn't go particularly well. I even heard, get this, Christian. I heard people with college football podcasts picked Clemson to win the national championship last year. It's crazy.
I heard
it's crazy.
Did that.
I know, dude. I bet those people got fired. I bet their bosses called them and were like, hey, this take was so dumb that you're done. You're done here, son.
Or they said, you know what? You just become the host of Locked On Pac-12. That could be I also did it.
They call that failing upwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, Christian, Boise State is seen as the favorite to make the college football playoff. Now, that could be because they have this tendency under Spencer Danielson, because it's the only thing they've done, to win conference championships, because they're the favorite in the Pac-12, which according to S&P Plus, Bill Connolly's metrics over at ESPN, the Pac-12 is the number one Group of 6 league going into 2026. I think that's a perfectly fair assessment. Mm-hmm. Is there any element of this that you feel is associated to Boise State is the Group of 6 Cinderella out there? They are the OG brand that everybody knows, that everyone associates. It'll be Boise. It'll be Boise. And they didn't lose their coach, right? Because I think some people might go, Tulane will get in there. Well, people know John Summerall's not at Tulane anymore, so that's not going to be. Most people are looking at the stuff from a glance. You look at it at a more in-depth perspective. Should Boise State be seen as the Group of 6 team to knock off to get that playoff berth going into the year?
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. And when you look at Spencer Danielson, he is the only Group of 6 head coach right now in all of college football that has a college football playoff appearance. You just mentioned with James Madison and Tulane last year, those moved up to the Power 4 level. So I think it's fair to put them in that assessment. Boise State had a down year last year in their expectations under Danielson, and it was still a realistically pretty good year across most of the Group of 6 conferences. So I do think that they bounce back. There are some things that definitely stick out to me of there are do or die things. Like does Maddox Matson step up? Does he have a better season than he does last year? I think everything rides on him. If that's the case, I think they're favorites, but I will say this, just because I think they're the favorites inside of the college football playoff for the Group of 6, I don't think it's a clear shot. I think it's more of a conversation to say that the Pac-12 is a clear college football playoff favorite for the Group of 6. But I think this conference is a lot more tough than a lot of people are giving it credit for as we enter this new year.
I like where you're going with that. A lot of coaching turnover in the American. That's a big reason why the S&P metrics grade them, or SP plus. I guess S&P isn't that a
it's stocks.
A financial matrix. Anyway, SP plus likes the Pac-12 more because of the coach. Now, there are new coaches in the Pac-12. It's just that the slew of returners is stronger, I think, than what you have in the American. You still have Jeff Traylor over at UTSA. You can never rule out the Roadrunners there. By the way, you've got Jeff Monken at Navy and
Army.
Is it Army? See, right as I said it, the moment it left my lips, I was like, no. That's not why. Brian Newberry's the head coach at Navy. And look, one of them always seems to be in the running each year. Neither's been able to sustain it to the point where they make the college football playoff, but gosh, it wouldn't shock me. And by the way, Army or Navy making the college football playoff, I got to tell you, that would be one of the coolest things we've ever seen in sports.
One of them. Navy, yes. Army, no, never. But that's the
rivalry.
Navy bet in me.
The rivalry runs deep. The rivalry it never goes away. But let's circle this back to the Pac-12 here, Christian, because if they were to send a representative to the playoff, very possible, and it's not Boise State. Give me the two teams in your mind. I know which two are in my head, but I'm curious if you have the same schools picked out as, if it's not Boise from the Pac-12, it would be one of these two.
I'm going to stick with the Pac-12 because I do think...
No, I'm asking you to stick with the Pac-12, specifically, not going all G6.
Okay. San Diego State comes to my mind right off the bat. I think what Sean Lewis is building right there is super impressive. I think what they built up, I think the fan support they're getting, they're filling Snapdragon finally. I think having Jaden Denegal back, I think they have Lucky Sutton, one of the best running backs in all of the group of six, and their wide receiver room is good. Defensive questions, but I do think that they're a contender. And how about Fresno State? I think Fresno State is a team to really pay attention to. I think Matt Entz had a really good first season there. If the quarterback situation works, I think their defense is going to be really solid. I think they could be a really sleeper of a dark horse inside the Pac-12 in the group of six.
Those were my two selections out of the Pac-12 as well. That if it's not Boise, it's probably one of these. And look, I'm interested in what Washington State and Oregon State's first-year head coaches can do.
Sure.
Same thing with Colorado State and Jim Moore. Like the upside, don't know if year one you're putting it all together. Texas State, I know you like their receiving core. I don't know if they're on the same level, top to bottom, roster-wise, as where the other ones are. But G.J. Kinney's a really good head coach as well. Bronco Mendenhall is not someone that anyone should ever overlook in the coaching space. He's been really good for a really long time. I just wonder, are they going to suddenly elevate beyond? I just feel like I've seen more signs from Fresno and San Diego State in recent years. But now let's broaden this a bit to all a group of six and go outside the Pac-12. Which G6s are on your radar as I'd watch out for them? I'd see what they're going to be able to do.
Well, I can swirl that right back to how we started this segment with Boise State. I think the second week of the season could be a college football playoff elimination game. I think you could see potentially Boise State and Memphis being a really, really important game. And that's where I'll go there. So I think if there's another group of six school outside the Pac-12 that have a good shot, I'll say Memphis for this one. If they can upset and shock Boise State, I think they have a really good shot at doing that.
Yeah, first-year head coach in there with Charles Huff, but he's turned it around.
He brought a ton with him, though.
Yep, a lot of continuity. There's I always hesitate to make this comparison, but I'll still say, because nothing's one-to-one, there's a Curt Cignetti vibe there. And he's not even going group of six to Power Four. He's going group of six to group of six. He's going up a level from Sun Belt to the American, but he's got a lot of his guys. I don't hate
that comparison when so many players follow him through multiple programs. That shows that they believe in his system. So I don't hate that comparison. As someone who just covers the Pac-12 and not Memphis, I hate that comparison. But other than that, I don't blame it. One thing, continue circling back to the top of the segment, every single one of these teams that we talked about, Boise State might be seen as the front runner, but every single one of those teams have at least one type of positional flaw that could completely just railroad their season. Talk about Matson. I think Matson from Boise State needs to put it all together, but Boise State, I think, has some issues at the wide receiver room as well. They don't think they have I think they have a very unproven wide receiver room. If they have help from a guy like Ben Ford, I think that changes it completely. San Diego State, they lost so much on the defensive side in the transfer portal. If they can figure that out, I think they're in a good spot. Fresno State, we mentioned the quarterback position. Texas State, we liked the offensive side, but defense could have questions. And then Memphis, you're bringing in so many different newcomers. That's why I think this now, when you're taking out the conference championship portion of it, it's going to be such an interesting spot going through the entire season of who will win that group of 6 contender spot.
UNLV probably has to have a mention in there with Auburn legend Jackson Arnold.
Yes.
And let me tell you, our Lord and Savior boss, Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn, will I don't know what kind of mood he'll be in, but we might not talk to him if Auburn is sitting at home and he's watching Jackson Arnold quarterback a playoff team.
That would be something.
That would.
But if Dan Mullen comes up and faces Boise State, take Boise State every time.
Hard to argue with those results in the last several years. Christian Rauh, Locked On Pac-12. Check him out on YouTube or wherever you hear podcasts. If you're looking for daily Pac-12 content, Christian is blitzing you with content, but in the best possible way. Multiple shows a day. When we get back here on Locked On College Football, though, going up to the Pacific Northwest, and don't overlook Washington when it comes to recruiting. Don't. We'll tell you why. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Odoo. Businesses need to work fluidly. That's where Odoo comes in, because running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. Well, that's not any good. It's not productive. That's not helpful. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. You want things to be consolidated. You want things to be uniform. You want them to be conformed, all in one place, easy to facilitate. All of these things are good for you, good for your business, and that's all you're looking for, right? Of course it is, and that's why you want to check out Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Check them out at odoo.com/lockedon. We pivot to the recruiting trail to wrap today's show. Some shows decide recruiting isn't worth talking about. I am not one of those shows. You always hear me talk about recruiting, if not to give everybody a break from the madness that is college football storylines. And I have Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies here to talk about. I just want to point out for the audience out there something that most are probably not aware of, Roman. Most people are probably not aware of the fact that in the 2026 high school recruiting rankings, according to 247 Sports, the number 13 class in the country belongs to the team and program that you cover. Most people probably wouldn't think of that. Now, Washington is doing well so far in this 2027 cycle. They have picked up a handful of recruits in the last couple of weeks. They are inside the top 30 in the country. I think that can grow. I'm sure that you agree. But I want to start with a big picture look from your vantage point. Where is Washington recruiting right now?
In terms of like the footprint?
Just you interpret that however you want.
Okay.
Just I want to know where your mind goes when you think about that, because I think they are, as a recruiting school, very underrated. Like flipping Cody Green from Oregon last cycle, who might start for them at left tackle this year. That's a sort of move that should turn more heads than it often does. But Washington, tucked away in the good old Pacific Northwest, the best place to be in the summer, by the way, is a place that I think easily gets overlooked in these conversations.
So, Spencer, the reason I ask you that question is because I think that Washington, because I interpreted that in so many ways. The first one is I think Washington is recruiting at one of the highest levels that it has in a very, very long time. And I think this 2027 class in particular, when you look at the 247 Sports rankings, the composite, does not match up at all with the talent in this class. Where I look at somebody who the Huskies picked up a couple weeks ago in 4-star wide receiver Trey Moore, who they beat out Miami and Ohio State for, one of the best wide receivers in Texas. In my opinion, the best wide receiver in Texas on film. This is somebody who this coaching staff has prioritized for a very, very long time. I look at wins like that, like 4-star quarterback Blake Roscoff out of Arizona, and so many other dudes in this class going out to New Jersey and getting a commitment from 4-star edge rusher Chaz Gray. Washington has done a tremendous job on the recruiting trail in the 2027 cycle and building off, as you said, the best recruiting class in terms of the rankings in program history. So I love what this coaching staff is doing. Jedd Fisch has really done exactly what he said he was going to do when he got here, and just gone into overdrive on that front and really just put on a full court press 24/7 on the recruiting trail. And I think we're seeing that pay off. And I think that a lot of these guys in the 2026 class that you're referencing, Spencer, are going to be very big parts of the rotation, whether people outside the Pacific Northwest see that or not. And there are so many dudes in that class that we're talking about come this fall as, oh, that's an impact player. That's an impact player. And then when we get this 2027 class on campus, I think it's going to look the same way, because you go and you look at the composite rankings between 247, Rivals, ESPN, whose scouting system is horrendous, and I only use this because it helps fit my narrative here. Of the 19 commits that Washington has, 11 of them are blue chips. And the reason I include ESPN is somebody who I think is very, very important to this puzzle. And that's, according to ESPN's rankings, a 4-star interior offensive lineman in Reese Russell. That dude is ranked in the thousands in the 247 Sports Composite, which is the most insane thing I've ever seen. That kid has 35 offers. He took an official visit to Georgia before winding up at Washington. And Washington also beat out Miami, Florida, Oregon, USC, some big time programs to get him as well. And that's a dude who this program believes can be a part of the rotation as a true freshman. So I don't think the rankings match up right now with the talent in this class, but and the end all be all here is Washington is recruiting at an extremely high level.
Can I give you a couple of my two favorites from their 26 class, which is the highest ranked recruiting class Washington has had since the Chris Peterson days?
Ever. It's higher than those classes.
It was the number one ever.
Yes.
Admit you may be learning right now. I did not know that. I assumed in my head that Peterson had pulled like the 10th or
top 20s. They were like in the 15 and 19 range for the most part.
Gotcha. Okay, so 13th is the highest that they have. Yes. They have ever been before. Yes. My two favorite guys from that class for the Huskies are Cody Green, who's got NFL franchise left tackle kind of traits to him, and Derek Coleman-Brusa, the defensive lineman. I think both, correct me if I'm wrong, impact true freshmen, right?
Cody Green is going to start from day one, and Derek Coleman-Brusa took the majority of his reps at defensive tackle with the ones during spring practice.
Okay, yeah, so that's what we call Spencer knows ball here on Locked On College Football. But
Spencer, I think can I really help you know ball here for 5 seconds?
Go ahead. Quick? I'm always trying to know more ball.
The guy you really need to keep an eye on is 4-star outside linebacker Ramzak Fruin. That dude was my favorite player to watch on film in this entire class. 6'4", he's up to 235 pounds at this point in time, and is one of the most explosive, athletic outside linebackers I've ever seen. That the just freaky athletic traits that he brings, the explosiveness, the quick twitch, all of that sort of stuff. He's going to be a really fun player on the edge this fall.
It's so funny to hear you describe him that way, because you can find almost identical words that I said going into last year on Locked On Ducks about a guy named Nasir Wyatt, who might erupt this year coming off the edge. And Nasir Wyatt, as a true freshman, had a little bit of an adaptation period for sure. He was the only Duck to log a sack against Indiana in the Peach Bowl. He had 3 sacks last year. He logged 40 total snaps, and he had a sack on almost 1 out of every 10 snaps that he was on the football field. That is the exact. I did not know that you were going to make that description, but as you said it, I went, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I said. Nasir Wyatt was my favorite tape. He's an outside linebacker, true freshman, edge rusher, coming off with just insane twitchiness and athleticism and all that sort of stuff. So it's fascinating that you happen to bring that up. But I want to bring us back to Jedd Fisch for a moment, because I think the generalized perception of Jedd Fisch is that, he's all about being a play calling guru, because he's one of the few head coaches that calls plays on offense. And I think people overlook the fact that he has been a really good recruiter his entire career since he got down to college. And one of the reasons that I know that, or that I think of when I ponder this thought, is he got Tetairoa McMillan to go to Arizona and stay at Arizona. He made him love Arizona so much that he stayed there, but I'm pretty sure he coached him for 2 years with the Wildcats. But the finalists that McMillan had were Arizona and Oregon. And he wound up at Arizona that was coming off a recent 1-11 campaign. And I think that the ability he has and the emphasis he does place on high school recruiting is showing up in these cycles for the Huskies.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the most important things, and I think will go overlooked, is because, these aren't things that will always get realized, is the players that are at the very top of his board are the players that they are going out and getting. It's not, oh, we have to pivot to this guy, we have to pivot to that guy. No, some of the guys that I've talked about for the longest time in this particular class, you go and you look at Washington's list of commits on 247 Sports, they are all committed to the Huskies. That's 4-star defensive tackles John Ioane, Tavita Nonu. John Ioane, Washington's coaching staff originally offered him in 8th grade when they were still at Arizona. They saw that through to the end. 4-star defensive tackle Tavita Nonu is one of the most disruptive players on the interior on the West Coast in this cycle. 4-star wide receiver Trey Moore. I had people telling me that they believe that he could strap it on and play as a high school junior in Washington's offense. Like, that's how much they liked that kid. And then I look at some of these other ones, like 4-star safety Isala Asa Wiliava. Like, that's another dude who's big, long, athletic.
That was a clean pronunciation.
Thank you very much. I've worked on that one for a
like
long
a
time.
crisp pour out of an ice cold can of beer.
I look at a kid like that and how well he fits the down safety role in Ryan Walters' defense that Alex McLaughlin has played for the last couple of years now, that Dylan Tiedemann played at Purdue. It's so much fun to just see the scheme fits and a lot of the things that this coaching staff is doing and going after and securing their top targets.
Dylan Tiedemann, who had an interception in Seattle last year.
I don't remember that.
Couldn't end the segment.
About?
You don't recall? Oh, that's interesting. Couldn't end the segment without a jab there. Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. That'll do it for today. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.